just like a picture on the wall. And now I know how to steer, I'm not afraid if I should fall, yeah. It took some tears, oh, but together we were strong. And now I feel a burning beat inside my heart.
Hi guys, so this is a little bit of a different video. I have kind of recorded different segments over different times of different months. So like I started in May, June and July because I wanted this to be something different. I appreciate that this is a beauty channel, but I've been wanting to for a very long time just talk about a little bit about how I grew up, what kind of influenced me and what didn't. I think now that, you know, I'm a bit more confident in not my physical self, but in my kind of own beliefs and what I'm learning all the time, I feel now is a really good time to kind of share how I feel and see what other people kind of, if they link to it, things like that. What I'll do is I'll just start off what year I was born and kind of what was around me at that time. So I was born in 1983 in Dublin. I had one uncle and two aunts on my mum's side, and then I had a little bit more on my dad's side. I was, I think, the first grandchild. My mum and her mum, so my granny, were very, very much involved in my kind of childhood and very early on, and then right up to my teens and early 20s when my granny sadly passed away. But she really had taught me so much, kind of taught me what she experienced growing up herself and what she could see me going through and the differences and the advice she could give me and stuff like that. So it was a good time. I'd have good days and bad days. So in school, from primary age, I had friends, but then there was always those kind of people who stereotyped me because my mum was a single mum, and children, you know, they often get victims of kind of bullying and things like that. So that was a huge part of my life too. I changed different primary schools from an English St. Ronan's to just a pure Irish speaking school. And that for some reason did make me feel a little bit more confident in going in every day and that kind of thing. And I started to kind of open up a bit more kind of, I felt a little bit more confident to be a child and have a childhood and things like that. And then I moved on to a convent in Selbridge, and that was most of my life from the age of, say, 13 right up to 18. So that was a huge influence again on what I kind of saw every day, basically what everything happened every day was kind of linked to religion. It was linked not in the sense that you were kind of always kind of seeing it or anything like that, but it you know, it kind of affected obviously everyone who went there. And so when you did kind of leave to go to uni or your first job or anything, it was a lot more free. It was you know, you had a lot more freedom. And then I went to college, and I did banking for a while, and then I did kind of different college, did IT, but then really wanted to get into Montessori teaching and childcare. And then just to kind of skip back, my mum was a huge influence, my granny was a huge influence. On my dad's side, I had I did lots of my uncles and aunts, and then one uncle was very much involved in, you know, me growing up and things like that. So, you know, I had all these different kind of aspects, which is really good because it started to make me feel, particularly on my dad's side, just because I do look a lot like them. And that kind of gave me a bit of, you know, a bit of just where you come from and that kind of thing. I didn't have, you know, everyone has teenage years where, you know, they don't necessarily experience great times, or they do have positive times, but they've had to come out of that time. And I will just put a segment in. I've written my own story a couple of years ago now, but I think it's taken me a long time to kind of be feeling confident to actually get it out there. So it's called A Notion of Secrets, and this is it here. and you can see the notes that were attached when I was originally doing it. It is on Amazon and it is published as well, with a publisher. And that was kind of a lot of my thoughts just brought out into writing. So I didn't originally plan to be a writer or anything like that, but I think when things just come into your mind, and it started off as a diary, and then I just thought this needs to be kind of something that, you know, is talked about and that kind of thing. So I will do a different segment on the book in terms of what it's about. Characters are mainly female, and what they kind of go through, one female has support and one doesn't. They finally do meet, and it is kind of how they learn things from each other. So that's kind of what I did in that section. What I'll do now is just show you a little bit of photos in terms of my childhood and things like that, so you can see my family, and then we can move on. So then as I grew up and kind of started in my teens and my first my kind of boyfriend, and carried on from there, I did have a very kind of, going back, a huge female influence. And so sometimes the negative of that can be that you don't kind of see the things, say, your friend would see in terms of her having, you know, a male influence in her life. So what happened with that is I did kind of have weaknesses that I couldn't see, but that other people could, and maybe they took advantage of that. And kind of, I was only aware of that as I, you know, moved to the UK, and there was a lot more open-mindedness there. There was a lot more, I think, for me, understanding in terms of relationships and friends, because I think when you have friends from when you're in school all the way through, what happens is you tend to only see that behaviour and not actually see what you're going through. And if it is a problem, you don't see it because nobody can relate to it. So when I did move over to the UK and the book came out and things like that, it did make me feel a little bit like, I hope other people, male or female, can see that, not necessarily move country in their point of view, but that was just my own personal experience. But if they move different town, if they feel like they're from a small town, if they move anywhere that they suddenly feel, I'm actually normal to feel this way, I think that's a huge, huge thing. And then what I'll do now is just show some photos of kind of when I moved to the UK, and then we can move on.
Oh. Yes.
They're so cute. They love the dogs. Oh, are they? From where? Dogs Trust, is it?
Yes, this one actually is the Society to Prevent...
WSPCA?
ISPCA.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
ISPCA, Irish Society for Prevention.
They had no foster family for her because she was very sick.
She looks very young.
She's older. She's almost 2 years old.
Oh, really?
Very cute. She has a good temper.
You better now. You better. Yeah? All better after wrecking the bed under the covers. Oh, back again. Where's the fly gone?
For a long time, I didn't really have any confidence whatsoever. And I actually, when I was married and kind of got to know their family, I literally couldn't speak if they were in the room. And I thought it was normal. It wasn't normal because I could see everybody else's kind of were very confident, and, you know, cousins and sisters and brothers, they had this kind of family kind of routine. And I, probably going back years, I can't explain it, guys. I literally would be overwhelmed if 3 or 4 people were in the room that I maybe saw once or twice a day. And my partner at the time, Kevin, he was very very sociable, very kind of, which I did feel okay when he was around, but then I couldn't even cope if somebody was talking to me, making that kind of effort, and in my head, before they even finished the conversation, I was thinking, what do I respond? And I don't know where that came from. I really don't. Maybe it's confidence. Maybe it's things that you don't necessarily see and you think, okay, I'll hide back there. I really don't know. But I did see that I never stood up really for myself. If somebody had a kind of a different opinion, even if I didn't feel the same way, I wouldn't say it. So yeah, I realised that probably a bit later. Obviously that didn't work out in terms of kind of separating and things like that, but I only realised probably this year that he made the right decision in separating, because at a certain point we were both completely different personalities, and that was nobody's fault. It just, one person saw the future in terms of what was best, and the other person, which was me, didn't really at the time. So now I completely do. And that's what I tried to work on. You know, I'm in a job where I'm a manager now, and I see people, girls, women, come in and they become colleagues, and even though they're in the childcare industry, you can see they have anxiety, that some things overwhelm them, and I can really relate to that. And the kind of, not concerning thing, but the kind of the eye-opener is that I'm 36 realising this, and they may be, the people I mean, they may be 50, you know, going on from there. And they have never, even if they had, they've never seen or wanted to say, or even if they wanted, they couldn't say what I'm just starting to realise. So maybe they have family or friends that they'd love to kind of be more sociable with, but they hold back because they're more worried about how they come across. So that was a huge eye-opener for me, and I am kind of every day trying to improve that. I think watching and working with children and seeing how confident they are from the age 3 that kind of makes me feel good, because I see them most of the day, and I just feel like you can learn from that as well. So after that kind of separation, moving on to nearly being a year or 2 years living by myself, initially I was a bit, how am I going to cope with this? But probably 6 or 7 months into it, I did really start to be able to wake up and say, I know I'm single, but I have friends. It's not the biggest thing in the world if I don't have a partner yet, but that's not saying that someday I don't. So I was kind of seeing all the aspects and not focusing and panicking, going, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I was like that for the rest, you know, for all of my teenage life, 20s, all of that kind of thing. And that kind of literally goes back to not, if things happen in your life, you feel like, okay, I was like my friends now, but because of this, are they going to be able to talk to me? Am I going to be able to talk to them? And that kind of is a lot of the book. The characters are 2 women, Sophia Baxter and Anna Tillman. Sophia is really based on myself. Anna Tillman is a fictional character. It just came to me, it really did. And the really kind of overwhelming thing to think about now is this was published in 2012, I know, and then, so that was Amazon, but then I was too scared to go out to a publisher, which happened in 2014, and then it was kind of, you know, distributed everywhere. And yes, don't get me wrong, I had a lot of reservations until I started to get, because I have at the back just contact details, and I will put it in the book, but I had left contact details there, and surprisingly I started to get letters from women and girls, all ages, and that kind of made me go, oh my god, this is the right thing to do. So that was a positive thing, and that's why I tried to talk about it as much as I could wherever I was, even to safeguarding children. And I never explain things that they can't understand or will be upset about, but I definitely instill everybody has their safe zone, and everyone's entitled to their safe zone. And if you feel something is not right, you talk to somebody you can trust, and then, you know, over time they do feel a bit more confident, but also over time you're giving them that common sense to say, I don't just talk to anybody, and if I feel something's wrong, I tell somebody. So I feel quite good telling the children that, because I'm telling them what I wish I knew back then. And that's not to say people around me didn't try to do that. It's just my own personality. I think it just, you know, that's just how my personality was. So going back then to when I was in my mid-20s and my granny passed away, and all of the family were kind of reunited in that, and my mum and her were very, very close, and mum, I think, learned a lot from her too. But what happened to me, and I think I tried to hide it, is I felt one of my, you know, and me and mum, I'm sure we felt the same thing. I felt that one of our, not just family, maybe a best way to describe it as a best friend, had passed away, to the point where I tributed this book to my mum and my grandmother, and I did write a poem. Again, I put a picture up, and there's pictures on my website of all of us, but it was so important to me, and I will put up the original picture, and that's her, and she is, if you can see me there, she's reading me Mr. Tickle. And I know it's not kind of relevant to this, but she got me reading books. She brought me to the library. When a lot of people were watching TV, which, you know, was a good thing at times, she had me reading books. So I think that's a lot where my inspiration comes from. And I think that now that I'm working with kids, and it makes you think back, even if you're not aware of it, it does make you think back to yourself. And what I link with is autistic children, not because I have it myself, but I've worked with two boys. One boy, and I won't say the names, one boy was 3, and he had non-verbal autism. And so my job to go in every day was, okay, how are we going to, because he didn't even recognize mouth movements. So a lot of it was putting a mirror just like this in front of him, so he could see his reflection. And so when I said, can you do what Ciara does? And I'd open my mouth, can you do, and I'd, you know, the tongue out, he'd be like, what's that? And then he tried to do it. And then we moved on to sounds and things like that. So can you make this sound? Or I'd play him a sound like maybe a car or somebody talking to to another friend. And eventually he started to get that confidence. And that was really like a really good kind of reward in terms of him and his parents and me, and in the school we were all really proud of him. And then the other aspect of that is the total other end is I had a autism kind of / Asperger's boy who was 8 but was never, not through anyone's fault, who was never kind of diagnosed, and he was 8 going on 9, where this other boy was 3 going on 4. And the earlier you catch these things, the better really that they can progress. So, and his kind of symptoms were more panicked if he was in a big room. Even within his classroom, he panicked. Things like if somebody didn't understand what he said, even though he could talk, he'd get very, very sort of push people, but he'd realise he was sorry. He'd go into this kind of breathing motion and he'd say he was sorry, and he's still going through things at the moment, and it probably will just take that extra bit of time, but he's definitely got a support system around him. So not trying to kind of go off the subject, but I think because I felt all these different things growing up and confidence wasn't there, and it's only really starting now, and it's so important for me to kind of show you guys that beauty is certainly not everything. It really, really isn't. And the really sad thing that I've only kind of realised now is that I started this channel in 2010. I felt that, like I said, if I was in a room, even with people I knew, I got so shy, things like that, but I was able to talk to a camera, which I could be on my own in the house and I could talk to the camera about mascara, about a review, and that made me feel a bit stronger, but I couldn't talk about my feelings. So I've learned over time, which that is, I know it's a sad way to start a channel, but over time I did start to learn that, you know, I need to kind of just, if I don't look at these things, I'll have anxiety, which I have now, but it's not to the point where it used to be. And I also met a lot of women online who went through the very same thing, and that kind of gave me a bit of, even though I didn't see them, there was a group there and they did kind of all relate to me and to everybody else. So I'll put some photos in again, but this video was not in terms of a full my story, but it was kind of important to me to show what kind of made me the person I am now. And then I'm just kind of linking this kind of very oddly to animals and to Ruffles. And I will put her link below, but I know it sounds really strange. I know it does, but she brought out a different aspect in me in terms of, I knew she had to be walked 3 or 4 times a day. So that got me out, that got me physically fit, that got me actually talking to people. People would stop and say she's, you know, very pretty, all that kind of thing. And the first time I wasn't really ready for it, but then she'd look at me and I'd know she needs a walk, or I'd know she needs to be fed, or I'd know things like that, maybe brought to the vets, things like that. And that just got me thinking a different way as well. So I do think that animals, even kind of Medidogs that, you know, autistic children have or epileptic children have, I think people see the benefit, and that's why they're trained as Medidogs and things like that. Not that Ruffles was a Medidog, but I think emotionally she just gave me something else. And then when she kind of passed away, I realised, okay, I have to continue this. I know she's not here, but I have to continue what she kind of taught me. So that's kind of what I wanted to kind of put across today. It's really important to me for you guys to know that this is kind of who I am. And not because I want to kind of tell the world, but I just wanted to kind of do this for myself as well. I will do a separate video in a few weeks' time about the book. There's a sequel coming next year, but it was really kind of important to me to show you guys this. Like, nothing is important. This isn't important. I'm sorry, but you know, lengthening mascara isn't the best thing in the world. What is the best thing in the world is able to look in a mirror and you've no makeup on. It might be the morning or the evening, and you can just say, this is who I am. And I shouldn't feel that I have to be X, Y, or Z. So I know that doesn't happen overnight. I do understand that. And that's why I started the channel. So I was the exact same. But yeah, I'm kind of learning all of that. I will put the link to where it's available in terms of the book. And I will kind of put photos of maybe just of me, more of my family, because I appreciate they probably don't want to be seen. And I completely appreciate that. I'll put it up on my, as well as linking it obviously to YouTube, I'll put it on my Facebook channel too. Just if it does reach out to people who are already linked to my my Facebook channel on that, at least they can kind of see there is a different aspect to me. And yeah, I think it's so important for these kind of things to be out, because don't get me wrong, I'll get makeup, I'll do all of that, I'll review what I'm sent, but I certainly don't want people to think this is kind of my only outlet, and it certainly isn't. I mean, I have books, notepads, just I write and I write and I write, and sometimes I don't even look at it for a year and I go, what was I writing? And then I just go, oh my god, I did write that. And so it brings you back to different moments in your life. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it helps somebody else. If anybody has any questions at all, please leave them in there. Either message me if you don't want anyone to see that comment, which is understandable, or if you want to, just link the comment below and I will of course get back to you. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next video.